Hello, my name is LaShawn. I support moms who are empty nesters who may be navigating parental estrangement. I do so by prioritizing your accountability, your healing, your self care, and a commitment to lifelong learning. Today's discussion, um, I want to give a disclaimer uh, because it can be very upsetting and can cause people who have had experiences with this to be a little upset by it, right? And so it's regarding parental alienation. The actual title, as you can see, Parental Estrangement, how parental alienation can lead to parental estrangement. I want to say that what you get here, the information you get here, is not, you know, from someone who is a mental health professional. It's not from any, research or anything. I can share research here with you, but I'm sharing lots of personal experiences, and I say that when I share it. And I'm sharing experiences of persons who I've engaged with about parental estrangement, okay? And also being an outside observer of parental estrangement and parental alienation as well, okay, to it occurring within my family. With that said, this is a very heavy discussion topic, and I did a lot of preparation mentally, emotionally for this discussion. And so I want to start off by discussing how parental alienation in terms of a divorce can happen, right? And as I say a lot, I'm creating a brave space for parents who maybe didn't know the harm they were causing, right? I am not advocating for harm that continues and for parents that continue to cause harm and don't want accountability. That's not what this space is about, okay? It's informational, of course, but it's also meant to raise awareness for a family dynamic that is very painful and it's destroying families, okay? So back to what I was saying. Divorce is one way that parental alienation can become part of a family story. A spouse or partner who wasn't ready for a dissolution or dissolving of a relationship can potentially alienate their child from the non-custodial parent, right? And when I discuss this, I want to not leave out a very active tool that is used by parents who cause parental alienation, and that is our court systems, okay? That can be a discussion that can go for months, okay? We won't get that far into it today. But just know that the court system has played a very large role, a very huge role in parental alienation. And we see it often for dads and for moms. But just wanted to make that note clear. So back to parents in this situation. The custodial parent can make a decision to rip away all of the non-custodial parent's rights, right? And that can happen by going into the court system, making up stories about the parent causing harm to the child when there's nothing factual about that, right? And so it forces the non-custodial parent to try and prove that they have not caused harm to their children. And how do you prove that, right? And as I mentioned, it's not always something that the court is willing to actively investigate, and the court is going to act in the best interest of the child. And if the non-custodial parent has enough people willing to help them to alienate the child from the parent, then they can be pretty successful in stopping the parent from having a relationship with the child, the non-custodial parent. This is a form of dysfunction that's happening in families everywhere. Within our community, we don't always want to discuss things openly because these are things that should be discussed amongst us, right? But I think it's time that we start pulling these things out to let some air and light on them, because it's causing destruction of families within our community for generations. And we have the power, by taking accountability for any activity, any contribution that you have made to assisting and alienating a parent from the child. You have an opportunity to correct that, to apologize, not just to the child, but to the parent. It's unfair to have a child to believe horrible, horrid, wretched things about their parent, just so the non-custodial parent and any other person who's invested in the destruction of that relationship can have the satisfaction of having caused pain to the other parent. Because you're causing, and you have caused, pain to that child who is now an adult and can't be able to build a quality relationship with that non-custodial parent. It's unfair. And it's so many young people out here believing that their other parent that wasn't there didn't want to be there, when that was not the case. When their rights were stolen from them. When they were broke, weren't able to reach their child by phone because no one answered. Or they had changed their phone number and didn't give it to the non-custodial parent, or they moved and didn't tell the non-custodial parent where they lived. And other family members were parties that were participating in keeping them separated by saying, oh, well, we don't know where they are. Well, they said they didn't want you to know where they are. Unless that child is being harmed physically, mentally, emotionally, that is emotional and mental anguish that you're exacting on a child who becomes an adult and becomes estranged from that parent. They deserve a relationship with their other parent. And if you have been a parent that has caused parental alienation between your child and your ex non-custodial parent, you should rectify that. You should apologize and take accountability for that. There are people who have been mortally wounded as a result of having their children taken from them. And that child will never know. It shouldn't be about you maintaining dignity about who you are to your child if that in fact was something that was harmful, something that caused pain to the other parent. You shouldn't go take that secret to your grave. Your child deserves to know. There was a video that was circulating last month of a mother who was sitting down with Jan Levin's aunt. And it was very painful to watch because our family has experienced something like that. I've also witnessed with my own eyes other family members experiencing something like that. And for some reason, these custodial parents hold on to that belief system that they were justified in what they were doing because they didn't get along with the other parent. It's a horrible family dynamic to have a child estranged from a parent due to parental alienation, intentional parental alienation. That woman sat with Jan Levin's aunt and her ex-husband and said, why didn't you fight harder? Because she had made up stories about him sexually molesting his own daughters. And she said, why didn't you fight harder if you knew it wasn't true? That's a level of dysfunction that your children don't deserve. If that is a person who you were, you deserve, your child, your adult child, deserves to know the truth. You deserve to come clean about what has happened. There's no way you get to heal without addressing your accountability in the breakdown of the relationship between that child and their parent. It's unfair. And if you are looking to be the best version of yourself, if you're looking to wake up to the woman that you desire to be in all her glory, and you expect to heal, you cannot heal what has not been addressed. And I'm not sure if there is a conscience behind it or not. I can't make that call. But that's something that you would know. Only you can make that change. Only you can change and make right what has been done. Do you risk parental alienation yourself? More than likely. But it's only fair that you give your adult child an opportunity to repair the relationship with their parent that wasn't allowed to be a part of their life. And hopefully that parent is willing to be actively available to repair the relationship with their adult child. What people don't talk about is how these scheming and deteriorating of relationships between a parent and child, how they start to wear and tear on the non-custodial parent, and how that erases or demeans or diminishes the respect that adult child has for their parent, and therefore they don't speak in a way where their parent can feel an amount of having a relationship with them. Okay? That parent may feel burned out from trying and not wanting to go forward anymore. This is part of, that's my neighbor's music coming on. My dog is probably going to start up soon. It's part of why parents and adult children have such difficulty during parental estrangement of repairing their relationship. Not because the parent was at fault, but because they were out of control of the amount of mass information that was given to the child, the adult child, when they were younger, that deteriorated any value in the parent that wasn't allowed to have access to them. I have to go back to my list. Conflict with another family member is my next bullet point. Conflict with another family member, like an aunt and the mother of the child, and the breakdown of the relationship between the aunt and the mother. It can present an opportunity for the person a parent is having conflict with to use it as a weapon against the parent without regard. Parental alienation doesn't just happen by parents. It can happen by grandparents. It can happen by other family members who may be close to the child, right? And that child could go through a very difficult puberty or adolescence, right? And as is normal, parents and children can come into conflict during their adolescent years. It's not always the case, but it can happen. The child is struggling to find their own identity, their own autonomy. They're struggling to have more freedom from the parent, and the parent may be of the belief system that the child isn't ready for more responsibility or freedom. And so there may be a power struggle. That parent can have a family member or a friend who can create conflict between the parent and the child. Oh, your parent is being too strict. Oh, your parent is doing this. Your parent is doing that. And maybe the parent is being strict. What if that person, instead of breaking down the relationship between the parent and child, instead brought the family together in a meeting and saw a way in which they could be of support to help bring the family together, right? Using conflict between you and another individual and using their child's relationship with them as a weapon against them, that's harmful. It creates division within families. You should want to see a family thriving and happy, not broken up and broken down and divided. There is so much that a healthy parent, adult child, and parent relationship can have. It can flourish. Parents, we can learn from our adult children, right? There are things perspectives that they can have with life and events that maybe we never would have considered. Those are very valuable and necessary relationships. Some of them are being destroyed because people are using them as weapons because they have their own agenda. If that is the person that you've been, you owe it to that adult child to repair that relationship. You owe it to them to tell them the truth. When we talk about healing and accountability, which are two of the 4 pillars in the Matriarch Code, 1 being accountability, 2 being healing, 3 being self-care, and 4 being commitment to lifelong learning. When you say you want to heal, you don't get to skip to the healing point before you address the accountability point, because the accountability point is where the work is. So if you're not doing the actual work on what you need to address, then you're not actually healing what's needing to be healed. It's surface. It doesn't go deeper. It doesn't truly address what's happened. And so you don't thoroughly get to heal. Having caused pain in other family members' lives intentionally is wrong. It's intentional harm. And that adult child deserves to know the truth. That parent deserves an opportunity to have a relationship with that child. And they definitely deserve an apology. As I mentioned before, a lot of times these parents who were not able to have a relationship with their child, they get burned out. Sometimes, as I mentioned also earlier on in this discussion, it's a mortal wound. This is a reality. This isn't something we should be taking lightly. That's why when I talk about parental estrangement with the passion that I do, I'm confused as to why people don't understand how important that is. Yes, people can say, well, if a child is doing something horrible to the parent and causing them harm and manipulating them and, not having a healthy relationship with the parent, then parental estrangement should be the solution. And that's true. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about relationships where parents and children really desire to have a relationship with one another, but don't know how. Don't know how to move past the pain that was caused and pain that was received. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about instances where there is direct intentional harm being done still, either by the parent towards the adult child or from the adult child towards the parent, which I'll be having in another discussion, how parental estrangement can be the choice of the parent. But what I'm talking about today is when you've been a part of the breakdown in a relationship between a child and a parent, and that child is now an adult, and they are struggling because of the absence of that parent. You owe them an explanation as to why you thought it was in their best interest for you to cause a rift between them and their parent. It's only fair. And you don't get to heal until you address the things that you've caused harm with and that you've inflicted harm with. My third bullet point is bitter friends helping the custodial parent to weave stories together to convince the child of horrible things about their parent and to create a wedge between the parent and child. I think the worst betrayal is by people we know and love. When you are in a child's life and you intentionally uphold the lies and deceit and harm that is being caused to them by their parent, that is intentional harm. And that's a horrible thing to do. That child deserves to know the truth. They didn't deserve to have their relationship destroyed with their parent. That parent deserves an opportunity to be to that child what they couldn't be. And that doesn't mean they get to try and go back and make up for lost time that you stole from them. They have to start now getting to know that adult child as an adult. There are missed things that they never get back. You can't get back the giggles and smiles from elementary school. The looking down into the audience to see the face of both your parents. The walking across the stage. The Mother's and Father's Day time. The birthday times. The first time they got a date. The first time they got married. The other parent deserves that as well. And to take that away, it's intentional harm. And that child deserves to know the truth. And if you want to heal and truly be a woman that has said, I am making a better life for myself. I deserve a better life where I feel good about me, where I love myself, and I love the woman that I'm becoming. You must address the ways in which you've caused harm to your own child. My fourth bullet point was creating conflict between blended families due to unhealed trauma or a history of family dysfunction. I try to keep these to 30 minutes. I'm at the 23-minute mark, so I'm going to try and get this down and condensed for the full 30 minutes. Hopefully I'll make it. Blended families have a lot already on their plate. When you introduce to those families unnecessary conflict because you want to exact pain on an ex-spouse, you harm all the children in that family, not just your own. You rob those children of the opportunity to build a relationship with one another. Blended families are already difficult. And having everyone feel that they are a priority to the parents takes a good deal of work, takes a great deal of investment takes a good deal investment of learning and researching and applying what you learn to each individual child according to their needs. Being a step parent is very difficult work because you want a child to learn that you are there. You are their other bonus parent. You're not there to take the place of their biological parent, but that you are there and invested in the care for them and the love for them and their wellness and well-being. To have that destroyed by a parent who's angry because they are no longer married to the non-custodial parent, or because the relationship didn't go the way they intended, and to have the child to be used as a weapon has far-reaching consequences. Consequences at the time because you were angry and in a state of revenge you didn't consider. These babies grow up to become adults. And that void that was created by breaking down the relationship between them and their parent, that void creates other problems in their lives. No, I'm not saying that parents are responsible for bad decisions that their adult children make, but I will say that it causes wounds that develop and create personalities within children that they may never recover from. That they may have almost a good portion of their lifetime working on to change. This message can reach the heart and ears and mind of parents who may be in the middle of this right now, that may be causing harm right now. It can also reach the heart and minds of parents who may be trying to heal the relationship between them and their child. Because sometimes that child actually goes and meets with the other parent who's willing to tell them the truth. And sometimes that child finds out the truth and they decide that they need you to be accountable for that. And they are owed that accountability. They deserve it. You don't get to heal and address who and how you have caused harm without accountability first. You owe that to your adult child. They deserve it. And as I mentioned prior, a lot of times this level of dysfunction has carried on for generations. There have been people who have either lost their parent wasn't present, and they were fearful of never having, a relationship with that parent, and they want to pass that pain on to someone else for whatever reason. Or they've believed that they're actually protecting a child because they felt rejected by their own parent. And so they're going to protect their child or grandchild or niece or nephew or friend from what they felt as a child. That's not fair. Because that parent, that's their parent, that adult child's parent now, maybe they weren't who your parent was to you. Maybe they actively wanted to be involved in their child's life. Maybe they wanted a relationship and worked hard at one and were robbed of having a relationship with that child. As I discuss parental estrangement and how parents, I'm going to go a little bit over, I see, and how parents are going to repair the relationship with their adult children, this isn't just for the parent who is experiencing the parental estrangement, because sometimes it's to no fault of their own. It's for those parents who may come across this video and have an opportunity to see themselves in a different light. to reconsider where they are, even the ones who may still be parenting small children, for an opportunity to gain insight into how a child's life can be turned upside down because parents aren't responsible enough to do the work on themselves and to heal, to address their anger, resentment, and fears, to address or get help for childhood traumas and experiences that were traumatic for them as they were growing up as children with their parents and their grandparents and their aunts and uncles and anyone who may have had an impact on their lives. We have an opportunity to stop the bleeding in the current generation. And maybe if we don't have that opportunity, the next generation, we can help them to heal so that their children don't have to have this as their story. That can be your legacy, that you left behind healing, that you made it possible for your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren to have a different life, a different family outcome. I hope that I'm here long enough to see my grandchildren's children, to know that we stopped the dysfunction, that it was addressed. And I want that for you and your family. Thank you for coming in if you stayed to this time, especially with so many interruptions earlier. I appreciate you. From my heart to yours, I hope and wish for your healing. I hope and wish for your accountability so that there's no barriers to your healing and there's no barriers to the relationships you're building and repairing, including the one with yourself. Bye for now.